Sorry. Chris has kindly agreed to have some questions and answers. Well, maybe not have the answers. But if you just keep the time and whatever it is, I'll get round you all who's got your hands up, etc., etc. Okay? Fire away, right, Rory?
Hi Chris, nice to meet you. How quick were you?
Sorry.
Up what? Obviously played full back, stand up. Did you ever do any professional sprinting?
No. I mean, the work when I grew up in the borders was quite a big thing in terms of there was kind of sprinters and handicappers, muscle running, these things. I mean, it was a thing. It was nothing. I never ever did it. Weird. I don't know. I was reasonably quick, but I wouldn't have said
You
it.
sub 11 over 100. Yes or no?
I don't know. I think what's hard to tell, I probably would have been, yes, but I think what's hard is, I think sprinting speed's totally different to rugby speed in terms of your anticipation and understanding where you'll be. I think that was really rugby quick in terms of being in the right place at the right time, running the right angle, seeing what was going to happen, changing the speed. Whereas I think if I would have asked me, can I put through speed gates or run 100 metres, I would have been probably alright, but I wouldn't have been close to sprinter quick. So I think where my speed kind of helped me in the game was my rugby speed. The speed of thought to be almost where you need to be without thinking about it, if that makes sense. Whereas I think in the sprint, if I was to run the sprint race, I would be tense and running. So probably. I'd say that we very rarely run 100 metres. We do speed gates over 10, 20 and 40 metres. So you get a time for 10, breakdown for 20 and 40. More often than not, the bigger guys will take over 10. So Alan Dickinson, those said probably the quickest over 10 metres, just all ballistic power, massive quads and thighs, just at 10 metres, just burst. And then the back three guys will be quicker over the longer distance we've got up. It used to kind of surprise people in the front row to be quickest over 10. I didn't think it was a joke, but more often than not they were. It's caught me the 20, I could run around them 3 times before they got to that's pretty quick. Speed of thought, I think, helped. I was reasonably quick, didn't carry a lot of weight, got more powerful as a professional athlete, didn't get any really heavier. I mean, I played at 70, probably 8 kilograms. I mean, nowadays it's be thrown about like an empty tracksuit, to be honest. But never really get up over 80 kilograms. Now most backs are 100 kilograms, 95, 100 kilograms. Which I don't think doesn't underline everything, but pretty quick, but not sprinter quick. Not the quickest.
Chris, who were your best opponents you played against? Who were the guys you rated?
Question. Not from yourself.
For me, the best players, and it kind of maybe rings true to what we're saying there, the best players are the best decision makers. So the player that does everything right more often than not. That for me, 2 would jump out above everybody would be Dan Carter and Johnny Wilkinson. So playing against John Lorus and these guys that were just utterly incredible, players, almost impossible to play against at times. But would I say they were the best players? Probably not just supremely individual. But the best players for me, the hardest opponents would be Carter and Wilkinson, especially when I played at fullback. And that England team in 2003 kind of World Cup winning vintage where they had Wilkinson and Carter as a right-footed, left-footed player. I remember playing at Twickenham, just not getting anywhere near the ball. He'd ebb towards one side, he would kick it that way. He'd ebb towards that side and kick it there. He'd get the ball, a metre from the touchline. He had no space now at all. And that was like then reading where I was and having the execution to put it behind that. I'd say probably maybe Dan Carter had a more attacking threat in Wilkinson in terms of ball in hand. But I think that in terms of decision making, they were brilliant. And I do think there's more players now that think like that in terms of making really late decisions. We used to be able to make a decision when you could see the defence unfold. Now the defence do 2 or 3 different things every game, and 2 or 3 different things before you catch the ball in one position, you get the ball in a different position. So that thought process of making that right decision has to be done so quickly now. And the players are more prepared for that. Something like Finn Russell's just exceptional at it, more often than not. And sometimes it doesn't go right, but if you ask him why he tried something, he'll know right away. He'll say, actually, his left shoulder turned in a wee bit, so there was space on the outside, but my support runner was a bit too far away. And he knows that. You're like, I just saw the pass it today. But he knew, and that's why he's brilliant to work with. He's brilliant in terms of his decision making and his reasoning, because a mistake, quite often not, for a lot of players, his was a mistake, but his is actually, this sounds ridiculous, it's quite often thought through. So the reason for the mistake happening, he's made a decision, that's the right decision, but it just doesn't keep up. So yeah, Robinson and Carter would say in my era were the best players, best decision makers.
Any more? John?
Yeah, Scotland's got a very small playing base, and the international team now is made up of so many imports, and as soon as they finish their international, I think apart from Sean McLean, they all disappear back to their countries. Is that having an impact on good Scottish players, knowing that a good foreigner will take their place?
I don't know. I'd hope not. I would think, speaking from my perspective, I was a young Scottish player that played as well, and there would be players ahead of me that came in as whether they were Scottish qualified foreigners like that. All I did was drive them on to be better than them. I didn't care where they came from. My mindset was I'm going to be better than you, or I'm going to try and be better than you. So hopefully that mindset remains. I think a lot of players, again, I played with who didn't were born or grew up in Scotland, they committed massively to Scotland as well. I mean, we spoke of Nathan Hines, was a good mate of mine from Galloway. He had a huge commitment. And I've never felt that whenever I was on the field, that anybody gave any different, regardless of where they grew up, or where they were born, or where the parents were born, or where they came from. And again, the off-field stuff as well, I think have a good influence. So I'd like to think that, from my experience, it didn't really matter in terms of on the field. Everybody gave what they did. There'll be Scottish players born and bred, who grew up locally, who probably don't want to, or feel that they have to, or just maybe, as I say, just don't want to give anything back, if that's the right phrase as well. I mean, and there'll be plenty of players who weren't born in Scotland who would commit to helping long term. I said before, rugby became a job, and at times that's quite difficult for people to hear, because it's rugby, it's a game, it's fun, but actually, you've played 12, 14 years of professional rugby, you've not really seen your family grow up, you've not really spent a lot of time around. You want that time back, and regardless of where you're born, I think we have to be a wee bit kind of sensitive to what players want to do once they stop. There's a good old phrase that say that as a professional sportsman, you never work a day in your life. This is the first half of it. The second half is you actually never get a day off either. So when players' careers come to an end, like I think we just have to be sensitive to what they want to do when that stage of career comes to an end. I've loved rugby, I've stayed in rugby, I studied as a PE teacher, I'll always be involved in sport, but there'll be a lot of players who play who probably just want to walk away, turn their back for a number of reasons. One could be because they've never seen kids growing up, or another could be, I want to get away from this game because mentally, if I'm close to it, I can't handle not doing it. But I don't think in terms of where they're born or where they grew up or where they come from, it certainly didn't affect anybody or I don't think affected anybody I played with. But I do think it's important that rugby retains an element of inspiration and role model from our top players. I think it's really special, even now, still that it's normal to see an international player kicking about with the kids on Sunday morning or being involved in stuff in the community. I think that's really important. And the more of it, the better. But I don't hopefully we'll lose that. But we test it over the years. The more money that comes in, the more pressure comes in, the more time people, more privacy professional players create because the whole life isn't private. But hopefully that rugby never loses the fact that actually just kind of you do really feel as if you should give something back.
Colin?
The new qualification rules that they're talking about now,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they've been passed or they're just
Yeah.
proposed that they have been passed. How do you see that affecting Scotland in the future?
I don't know. It's a new qualification. Basically, if you could now represent two different nations. So if you've played international rugby for one nation, but you're eligible for a second nation, like before, I think last week it was passed, you had one international team to play for, and that was it. Now, after a stand-down period of 3 years, I think it's a 3-year stand-down, that you could then play for a second international team. So if you were born in Scotland to an English mum and you played for England, and then you didn't play for 3 years, you're still eligible for Scotland after that stand-down period. How it will affect that, I don't know. I mean, I'm not really aware of that many players it would affect. I think it's been a big push from Pacific Island nations in order to try and either not retain talent from, say, Tonga, Samoa, Fiji, playing for All Blacks or Australia or whatever. Because a lot of these players are identified quite young and move off the island or move to the mainland and play international rugby, and then become not established to requirements, but not able to play or not picked for the All Blacks or Australia or England or whatever. They could then go back to their country of birth. I don't know how it affects us, really. Desperately trying to wrap my brains to think there's anybody that would read the paper, the Jack Dempsey guy.
You've got to not have an international for 3 years.
3 years stand-down period,
There is a precedent in the 1990s. John Allen played for Scotland and for South
Yeah,
Africa.
before the regulation, wasn't it? He played for Scotland. Yeah. He played the 91 World Cup, I think, before going to.
Can't remember.
I think, yeah. So yeah, it came in, and then the residencies changed to 5 years as well. So it used to be, you would become eligible for a country of residency and stay in the country for 3 years, now it's 5. So I mean, it's said before, rugby's changing quicker than ever before. I generally don't know how it would affect Scotland or if it would affect Scotland, but I wouldn't like to play for anybody else. Nobody else would have.
You got a question, Neil? You have got your hand up, no? Gordon? Sorry people, come to the back, don't worry. Can you go, Gordon?
The game has changed as very impressive from even when you played, and certainly from when most of us played. Do you think he's gone for the better? The change of rules? It's more physical.
It's more physical. I think that, is it for the better? Who knows? Like, I think there's an element in all walks of life looking back with those tinted spectacles. I mean, I think back in these memories, and it was great, wasn't it? I can guarantee at the time I'd be miserable or something. And running would annoy me, and wouldn't be as good, I was better back. Like, so I think we always kind of look back and think things were better. Well, I suppose the one way of answering that, what frustrates me about today's game is the lack of space on the field. It is in terms of, and now I don't know if it's the way teams, a couple of things actually. We'll start with the lack of space, and the 50-22 law that's been brought in, I think it's a really good kind of iteration, because it's trying to create space in the front field, mainly driven through player welfare, because the more space, I reckon the collisions will be, well, there's more space to aim at rather than points. Coaches and players will find a way to adapt. I don't think the 50-22 laws change the shape of defence just yet, really. I don't think teams are dropping too many players back. They're quite happily just concede the yardage, concede the line, and then you get more kind of almost frontline defence as a result of that. So hopefully that'll change it. So I like how the lawmakers are trying to create space. I do, because I think it should be an evasive game. It's still listed as an evasive game. I think the media and a lot of kind of glorification of physicality doesn't help the sport. Yeah, it's great in terms of seeing big hits and whatever, smashing tackles in super slow motion, but actually, if you're going to show us that, show us the brilliant pieces of individual skill to create space, either for yourself or for someone else. Like, I do still think it's an evasive game, and people just think it's because I was a skinny wee runt that didn't like contact. No, like, if I'm going to run through the woods away from somebody, I'm not going to run at the trunks, am I? I'm going to run at the branches and try and evade get away. So I still love the fact that rugby should be built in evasion. I love what we're seeing in City, Edinburgh at the moment, Glasgow as well, Scotland, first phase attack coming back in. So when you have 16 folk in the scrum or line out, there's more space to attack. Whereas I think we saw maybe 5-6 years ago was the more phases you get to, the more opportunity there is to score. Now it's the opposite. It's your time to score is immediate, because once you get up to 3, 4, 5 phases, everybody's on their feet, everybody's filled the field, everybody's fit and strong, so they're not going to tire out. So I like the fact that it's kind of going full circle to your opportunity to score is when you've got people caught in, which is the kind of essence of the game. So the lack of space frustrates me a wee bit, but I do like the fact that getting back to first phase attack being quite creative, and being executed well, it's hard to defend against. The other thing that kind of frustrates me a wee bit about the modern day is just trends, and I kind of hinted at it before, which we're talking about, like, everybody spends so much time analysing each other. Everybody knows what everybody else is going to do, but we still do it. And I think there's a fear of doing something different in case it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, the ramifications of, you know, oh, you know what to do, and everybody else is doing this, and you're doing something different. Well, that's the nugget for me, is do something different. Like, don't just blindly follow, you know, if you're in the 22, catch it, drive it, pick and go, pick and go, pick and go, pick and go, pick and go. Just move it a wee bit. It doesn't have to go to the winger or the fullback. Instead of passing to in the 22 for me, well, just actually get a wee bit wider. You'll still get one.
Love to get a pass.
You'll but like that distance from a pass, we could still get away if a defence is running it. And it actually means, if God will use that defender, the next defender's here, it actually means you're engaging another defender a wee bit wider, so you can. I would love to see, and you do see it, innovation.
It infuriates me to watch the ball going at line, and you actually receive the ball at outside centre there, but we used to be outside centre. You're 5 yards back from where the ball was won, because the opposition is on your nose.
I know, but I would hate for that to mean that we don't try and get it there.
No.
Because that actually outside centre position is the hardest place to defend, and that's where the defence are worried about defending. So it's risk reward, isn't it? Like, it's quite easy if we're close to the line and you get that pick and go game we all see, defences are quite happy with that. Like, they don't want the pass being a wee bit wider because it means they have to move further, it means there's a difficult decision to be made. But I think most teams, and you can understand why, and I'd probably be part of it, aim for that safety net of just doing what's not trendy, but doing what's safe. Where I've seen big developments, it's kind of area I'm involved in, it's just an attacking kicking. We're seeing more tries scored from attacking kicks every week, basically, year on year, because the skill level's improving, but it's also part of the attacking setup now. I mean, we've all been there over the years where somebody kicks, why do you keep a hold of the ball, man? Why are you getting it away? But actually, if it's an accurate kick and it's called and you know it, it's far more difficult for the defence to deal with than another pick and go or another short pass to someone. And I see that cascading right down all levels. Some of it's not as effective as the kind of top end because it's been more time. But that mindset of trying something different, trying an attacking kick by practicing it first, I think kind of gives some encouragement because the space just isn't there. You're going to have to play it.
That's where Finn Russell stands out.
The Finn's there,
He does
yeah.
that, the kick pass.
Yeah.
I mean, he creates space there, and folk think that's
And even if it doesn't work right away, if you do it 2 or 3 times in defence, you start to think, maybe stand wider a wee bit or back, what if he kicks it, and then your space for the pick and go comes up. So just changing the picture and trying not to fall into the strategy or the structure that we see all the time. And it's difficult, but it takes guts. But I do think that the more successful teams are the ones that actually try different things, rather than just can you do what the defence expect.
Interesting actually you saying about the attacking kick, because I was watching the junior team playing Loreto on Saturday, and it was a really tight game. Unfortunately, Linlithgow failed to win, but Loreto's a very good team. But one of the differences there with Loreto, who had Jason White as their coach, was that kick forward, because it was that was making the difference in the game, actually.
It's so true, and it's something that, like, we've all been there as coaches. If somebody kicks, what are you doing? Remember the old phrase, he didn't kick it. Stevens used to be drummed into you every day in the borders, and it's like, actually, like, why not? If you practice it, and if you're good at it, like everything else, it's another attacking option, it's another attacking threat. And quite often it seems conceding possession, but quite often if an attacking kick's put in, yeah, you're conceding possession, but the team regaining possession is in a corner 2 metres to their own touchline, 5 metres out from where they're going.
Yeah.
Because if you've worked on your kick, you've worked on your chase, and you're saying, like, come on. And it's just that kind of technical or tactical approach to position where you want to do. So kicking isn't, unless it's proven, which we see a lot as well. I think we see too many box kicks. I'm definitely in that chain of thought like that. On the box kick, jump on the box kick, but the box kick's fine, but I think they take too long as well. I mean, you see this setting up the kind of caterpillar, used to call it bodies and bodies and bodies. Yeah. That, a couple of things frustrates me. It's done because the pressure on the kicker, the scrum half kicking, is much greater than it was before. You'll see that the chargers are in there, setting those at 6 foot down and getting through. So they have to try and create space a wee bit. But again, I've mentioned my selfish mindset a few times. If I'm a scrum half, I'm almost saying, listen, I don't want 3 here. I'm good enough to do it with 1 of you. Do you know what I mean? I'll get better at getting my kick away quick, so you two can chase and hit whoever catches it. So I do think that is another kind of trend where, when are we going to stop adding bodies to get a kick away? It doesn't really have to be back there, it can be here, if we're technically we're good at getting away. So, and I think that takes so long. The catching in the air, the skills in the air are so good nowadays, it just gives, even if it's a contestable kick, it just gives time for the defence to drop somebody else back to protect that catcher or catch a deflection. So definitely attacking kicking is great, box kicking can be done quicker. But I do like seeing how Scotland play and what they do and the mindset around just doing what's not expected.
Just before we move over space on the park, Chris, do you think there are too many subs now?
I think so. Yeah, I agree with that.
They're coming on fresh, tired, to make a bit of space.
I'm getting grumpy as I stand. I feel as if I'm being made company though. Look at some of the faces, I think I'm getting grumpy. It's just a bone, isn't it? A Monday morning bone for me. I totally agree. And because I think one of the things that I took pride in was trying to be as fit as possible, and I would look forward to the last 10, 15, 20 minutes where you thought, actually, I've got an edge in you. I'm going to get you then, because you're hopefully fitter or you work harder. Whereas I don't think you get that as much in it, and of course your team can bring more players on as well, so you can still be fit across the board. But the element of fatigue, I think, created opportunities for me as a player that I don't think are there now. There's an ongoing study going on in England, I think France as well. I know World Rugby are looking at it in terms of limiting the number of subs. So you could still have 7 or 8 on the bench, but use 3 or 4. Now, there's 2 or 3 changes of thought on that. The one is that actually you take intensity out of the game by not replacing 40% of your team in the last 20 minutes. So you will get that fatigue. Now, that will create more injuries, but the injuries are likely to be muscle tears or soft tissue rather than these massive collision injuries with big physical players for 80 minutes. So you'll get a drop off in intensity, which might make, like in the grand scheme of things, more injuries, but there'll be no injuries good, but you would probably rather have a muscle strain for a week than another massive collision because you've got 20 stone guys going head to head for 8 minutes. So that's ongoing, and I think hopefully it means that you get to a point where the game becomes a wee bit more tactical in terms of the coach's decision as well. Like if you've only got 3 or 4 subs to make, you're going to have to make pretty crucial decisions rather than just rely on another 7 guys coming on that are equally as good as the guys that start. We don't like football. The downside of that is if you go to the community level or club rugby, you could end up taking players and not getting a game, where it might stop you having a second or a third 15. So there might be different levels, as there is, competition laws for different things, but I would hate the fact that in a kind of club setting, you're taking players just in case and end up losing, and you didn't get 3 fixtures, you only get 2.5 or whatever. So we'll see, but I do think that the top end of the game,
Questions at the back? No?
Okay, thanks. I think Chris answered my point about box kicking there.
you as grumpy as I am on it.
I was just going to ask you, through rugby and all the trips you've had around the world, where do you get favourite places that you've been? Something you maybe regret?
It's funny because like we end up going to kind of similar places. There was the Australian World Cup 2003 was probably my favourite tournament, favourite event. It was brilliant in terms of just it was still at a stage where you could enjoy the country, so you did stuff. Now, towards the end of the career, now you just go and you see a rugby pitch, a training pitch, in a bedroom, you're in and out. There's not a touring element at all, so you don't get to see different places. So it's, but I'd say Australia and the way they run that tournament and how it was run, I thought was excellent. Well, lucky enough to travel all over, but yeah, I'd say probably Australia in 03 was the pick of the bunch. It's quite a great time in Canada and North America in 2002, so much so that we lost the first test against Canada. The boys were sunbathing in Vancouver, we went to these hotels with a rooftop pool in Vancouver, and it was just, the weather was great, so the boys were sunbathing on the Friday afternoon before the game, and we got beaten the Saturday, which didn't go too well. I'm not sure the sunbathing was the problem, though. One awful couldn't catch a ball. But then there was still an element of fun involved. But what makes touring fun isn't necessarily where you are, it's the people you're with, and it's the teammates you have, and the kind of fact that you've got teammates and tourmates that realise that not every minute you spend on tour is great fun. There'll be times where it is pretty miserable, pretty dull, or hard, but somebody recognising that and helping you out is really quite important. So you end up thinking more about the people you kind of cheer the tour with rather than where it was. But that'll still remain in rugby, of course it does, at all levels. But just get I suppose internationally, you get the ability to go a bit further afield at times.
Did the Bob Crothers era have an effect on the players?
In what sense?
Well, did you have a seat mentality or did you resent it?
I don't know, like it was, that was the era that I went to Gloucester. And terribly selfish as it sounds, like players don't really worry about that sort of stuff. They're too single-minded, focused on what they need to do, and quite often totally unaware of what's happening. Like really unaware of what's happening. Maybe consciously, maybe subconsciously, I don't know. But
even when your players were stopped from playing for Scotland?
Did that happen? That was, I don't know, did that happen?
Yeah, they refused to release players for a tour.
I don't think, well, if it's red 9, obviously that's where the regulations can supersede some stuff. But that had an effect, obviously, because everybody who's eligible really wants to play as high as they can. In fact, international rugby doesn't play as high as they can. From my point of view, there was just one or two things that I'd say financial sustainability wasn't guaranteed. So that had an effect on players as to where they ended up playing and where they could. And so that was built up to 2007. All done in good faith initially, I think, but just maybe things didn't turn out how one party hoped, the other party hoped, but Like I'm not aware of players having like a net effect of players in terms of playing and training. You just empty yourself in order to get picked, and you get picked, you empty yourself in order to win, regardless of kind of the structures above. I assume it's probably the same.
I think we'll call it. Oh, last question, Gary.
My understanding is that one of the reasons that the Super Six in Scotland was set up was to hopefully increase the flow of players to international level. Do you think the competition is on course to do that?
I think so, yeah. I generally do. I think even back when I started, way back to the 99, and certainly immediately after that, the need was for a stepping stone, for use of a better phrase, between club rugby and professional rugby, and it hadn't really ever been addressed. I think Super 6 addresses that. I genuinely do. It's a need that everybody probably assumes initially in terms of ability, but it's not all about ability. There'll be players who can play professional rugby who maybe don't want to, and there'll be players who want to play professional rugby and they don't have the vehicle to do that. So I think by creating another tier, another level, I think it creates an opportunity for those who do want to do it, and those who don't, then they maybe just want to train and play club rugby as it used to be Tuesday, Thursday, for example. So I think it separates kind of confusion as to what you want to get from your rugby career. So hopefully club rugby can still be strong with those that have a job they want to stay in or don't have the time to commit, but still want to play really hard, good rugby, play club rugby. Those who want to try and progress can, commit more time to analysis, to weights, to 2 or 3 sessions a week, to whatever else that Super 6 window allows them, in order to step up. So I think this season's campaign or Super 6 tournament was really good. I felt the one I think it's probably been disrupted because of the COVID break last year, but I think over time I think it will get clearer and clearer that that extra level will be a vehicle for players to progress. But I think what it does is create an opportunity for what you want as a player out of rugby. Do you want to be a club player? And this isn't anything to do with ability or standard or level. It's what do you want from your rugby? Do you want to be a club player and play hard and play for fun and be around, or do you want to progress? Because that player is really good. Maybe he doesn't want to do 2 or 3 extra sessions a week. Maybe he doesn't want to do analysis and recovery on a Sunday morning. There's no slighting on that player. But if they're forced to play in a kind of Super 6, if it wasn't designated and they're forced to do that, maybe they fall in love with the game as well. So I think it's going to help progression upwards, but I think it should hopefully strengthen the kind of club ethos of club rugby.
As a follow-up to that, because do you think there's a position for a revival of the old district championship for the amateur game?
I think so. I think that was spoke about at a club level, wasn't it? A club, yeah. The one thing I would say on that is I think it probably could be. I think it probably wouldn't be at a semi-professional level. I think it would be at an amateur level. And if there was a thirst or a want for it, I think it would be good because it still stand, hopefully, I assume, thinking of how I speak, it would stand a lot to be able to represent South of Edinburgh, North Midlands, Glasgow, whatever. But you would need to ask the players who play in club rugby that, I think, because it would be, and that sounds pathetic, but another couple of training sessions, another weekend to try and find 4 fixtures or 3 fixtures. Yeah, but I think below Super 6, if there was an appetite, I think it would be great because it gives those players an opportunity to represent the region, which hopefully still stands for a lot. But if you want to do it, you have to do it. You can't go half in and say, actually, I can't want to train this week. It's, we play in the south, I didn't want to go to Selkirk. I wouldn't want to go to Selkirk, I can't figure out it. Do you know what I mean? Like if you want it, you want it. And I think the players would need to answer that, but I don't see why you would prevent, if there was a thirst for it, you would stop players wanting to represent the region. But in terms of kind of periodisation and planning for professional players and doing that, I think Super 6 would be the vehicle for that rather than a domestic kind of regional championship.
Right, lads, we'll call it a day.
Well done. Thanks, folks.
Enjoyed Chris's talk, and it's great that he's come out and given up his valuable time to come and speak to us. I'm sure we've learned something from him, not quite sure what, but I'm pretty sure we have. I really thanks on behalf of the club. Thank you very much.